Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on the Monday. As you can see, it's just me and the Exile Dub, Barney and Beanie, two of us here this morning to discuss all matters at Time Greyhound Nutrition Juvenile Derby, the Kasko Derby Decider, the Dave Collins Memorial, Munster Oaks, and of course we'll be mentioning the Cambridgeshire, one or two runs in that of particular note. But we're going to kick off with the Time Greyhound Nutrition Juvenile Derby. Exile Dub, Tommy Lyons, good to see you. Good weekend.
Yeah, good to see you, Ian. And we should apologise to anybody who's watching or listening to this because it's just you and I, so they're going to have listen to us a little bit more than usual. So it's a caveat for anybody who's actually tuning in.
From what I hear back, like that's a good thing as regards me. Maybe not so much for as regards you. But don't worry
Correct,
about it.
correct.
I'll keep you moving, right? Let's talk about the juvenile derby. Let's not just go through the heats one by one. Let's start where we have to start. Okay, there was two sub 28-second runs to for
Wow.
you to beat your band. I dare say these two dogs were doing sub 28-second runs though. Delady Da was absolutely stunning. You saw how good Druppy's flight line was down in Cork. He took a flyer, led around the opening bend. For a dog to cut him down like Delady Da did, and to go on and beat him 3.5 lengths, did you think you'd see the day?
Mm. And actually, I knew the result before I saw the race, which I hate, but but I was surprised at what I saw. I didn't expect it to be flying, and I would be about 2.5 lengths clear, and that the laddie da would show the pace he did to beat him. I'm not surprised by the pace of the laddie da, but I had Druby flight line down as a stayer. I'm told by connections that he's not. He's an early pacer for the Druby flight line. That was kind of the first time I saw it, and maybe he's one of those greyhounds that's developing that way, and
Yeah.
he's been given time to do that, and and that's a great way to train a greyhound. Let it come naturally rather than force it early.
My, my
And
my my instinct, having seen him in the first round Ruby's flight line, was that he showed more early than he did in Curraheen. Now, I also
yeah,
would suggest that he showed more early in the final in Curraheen than he had done the previous rounds. So he's clearly one of those. I was going to say one of those horses. I refer back to the days of Istabrack, where he was so much like a 2.5, 3 mile hurdler in his early days, but then developed this raw, ridiculous speed through the end of his career. And Droopy's flight line 1582 the other night to the third bend. It's like that's unbelievable running.
and that's why that form stands up so well. But yeah, like he's think I suspect this is this is what I hadn't expected from Drubby flight line, but this is definitely going in the right direction. Even though he's beaten the other night, he's beaten, but he's doing 28.02, and he's actually putting his place 3.5 lengths, and he's beaten, doing 28.02. It's remarkable stuff. But like, it's not a surprise from the laddie dad that the ability is there. You just he's not yet he's not yet the out of traps kind of come out running kind of dog. He's just not that yet. I mean, we talked about it during the derby, and that was our concern kind of going into the semi final. He's not a fly from traps kind of dog. He has the acceleration, he has the pace, but like I'm already worried about him because I think he's so good, the laddie there. I'm already worried about him,
Yeah.
thinking he's done a lot already in a very short career. He's been to a derby semi final. He's been up against some of the best in the country, and he's now coming straight into the juvenile derby and doing huge runs. Like now, I saw you. I think you saw you tweeting about it or listening to your commentary as well, and like you're pretty excited about him, rightly so. And I just like, is this the seeding of his ability, or are we going to see even more? And if we
Well,
are,
well
like,
I,
how do
my,
you control
my
that
my
as a
my
trainer? How do you
instinct
control
my
it?
my instinct would always be he's done 27.78. There's no way he can ever better that. I bring you back to the first night that Premier Fantasy took off in the Easter Cup, and he did a 28-20 odd run. And Teddy Hegarty came to us the next night. He says he can never ever beat it. He like I just the sectionals. He can never beat that run. And
Yeah.
bang, 2 weeks later, just 28-08 in the final. And it's just sensational. Like this dog the other night didn't come away running. He has to come from behind the dog. Now, yes, he has a target to aim at and he gets up the inside and he charges through and whatnot. If he did 27.60 next week, it'd be absolutely zero surprise to me.
The thing is, right, and we're saying what we're saying, and rightly so, but we got the preview the previous week. I thought what he did to Ballinkill out that day, and I did come away from that, right. This is the curious thing about the way the mind thinks when you're looking at greyhound racing. I did come away from the Ballinkill Alf race thinking, do you know what? He had to get a little bit of luck. Now he had to show phenomenal pace, but he had to get a bit of luck to win that night. And I think, you know what? As you go on, it'll be harder to catch Ballinkill Alf. You just won't give him that lead and catch him because he'll be doing probably 28 seconds, you know. But I said that, and he just beat a dog that did 28.02 coming from behind, beating him 3.5 lengths. So
Yeah.
I don't know. And
Here's where you mentioned Dale Road Duke, who did 28.01 in the opening round. Absolutely flawless.
yeah,
Perfect. And after the
yeah,
racing, the Laddie Da has gone 4 lengths slower. And yet the instinct was, well, the Laddie Da has to be favourite now. Do you know what I mean? Purely for just purely on what he did tonight, rather than anything previous. Whatever about the fact that he wasn't favourite to win the Juvenile Derby, despite being 2-1 favourite to win the Irish Derby. Week and a half prior. It's just. I don't know. I don't know where his ceiling is. I have to give Lenson Bocco a mention. Like, this is a Derby champion that didn't get the bitches that he probably deserved to get. He's produced plenty of fast ones. Many of them for Graham Holland, who gave him a chance with bitches that were purely sort of staying bitches. And here he is going to Ballymac Sarah Joe, and in one of his first real litters of potential early speed and more 4-bend pace than 6-bend pace, he's produced the Laddie Da. This is a hell of a greyhound. There's also one or two in the UK. I saw one producing an 1857 trial at Inniscorthy the other day. Someone sent me a video of it. I just wouldn't be surprised if Lenson Bocco takes off. He hasn't had a chance just yet. Surely he's going to be given a chance now with the Laddie Da on the ground.
yeah. Well, if a greyhound like that isn't going to encourage people to use the fire, then I don't know what will. But I was a bit concerned, right? That's just, and it's only because, like you, I'm a bit excited about how good the Laddie that could be, and we're all looking for our next absolute standout superstar. And we have a lot of good greyhounds, a lot of really top class greyhounds in the country at the moment. But this could be the one that's utterly exceptional. And you just worry, he's done a lot already, and maybe he has the constitution, maybe he has the profile. He's in great hands, so they're like, whatever Liam Downey's going to do, he's going to do it right. But like, if he was yours now, like, what do you do with him? Do you put him away straight after the Juvenile Derby and think maybe trot out for the Gold Cup? Probably not. Wait till the Easter Cup probably, and kind of have a kind of a 3, 4, 5 month spell there where you hope to peak him next year. Is that the way you look at it?
I'm not a fan of putting the dogs away for long periods.
Really?
No, I never have been. I don't want a 5-month gap in this card. I'll take a 2-month gap. That'll do me fine. I don't see the point in put him away. Like, Liam Dowling certainly doesn't see the point of it. I think he'll run through the Juvenile Derby. Then he might take it easy with him. Maybe a Winter Racing Festival date, but then bang, race or two before the Easter Cup, and then whether you go down the English Derby route or whether you then take an Irish route, I don't know. But like, I think Liam probably has to rethink this fellow's campaign more than most, in a sense where you just got to make sure he's put into the best positions to win derbies. But I don't think you're putting a 5-month gap in this card, or a 4-month gap.
I think you're right in one sense, in the sense of the long gaps. Like when you think about the racing career of Greyhound, it's very short, really. And 4 or 5 months is an awful long time in it. But like, now you're trying to balance: is this the most special talent I've ever had in my hands, or is this just another really, really good greyhound? And the next one is coming along. Liam breeds such good greyhounds, and there are other people.
For all we know, is Liam is nursing 3 at home that he's ready for Tralee next year. That he thinks are every bit as good, if not better.
He's probably laughing at us talking about the Laddie Dad, thinking I got one or two at home that are going to do this. But anyway, it's just, you know what? Maybe it's me being cautious in my mind, as if I'm thinking of the Laddie Dad as if I own him. Kind of thinking mind them in my head.
Well, sadly, when dogs do what he's done, it does nearly slip out of the hands of the owners and trainers. And there is an owner here. Like, this isn't Liam Dowling owned and trained.
Oh yeah,
I met the Garsons, and it's a family syndicate. And by God, they are having some crack with this dog. They came up to me, I think it was Derby semi-final or Derby final night, and they said, "You latched onto this from early." I said, "Well, how could you not?" I said, "And get ready for it, because everyone else is going to latch onto him too, and he's nearly going to be not yours anymore. He'll belong to the ether. He'll belong to everybody." And that's the beauty of greyhounds like this: is you do get attached, and you do almost feel that's my dog. And if they make a decision to go here, that's madness. Why would you go there with the dog? That's the way people are, and people will be telling you that to your face.
You go back to you refer back to horse racing like I do a lot, and you go back to Best Mate, who won 3 Gold Cups, but he got Henrietta Knight got crabbed for not racing him often enough. But she had to do, her plan was that I want to be, it's not very often to win 2 Gold Cups, never let alone 3. But just she wants to think that I can only peak him a certain number of times. And I would be one of these people who thinks that even this year maybe I could pick out examples in the English Derby where greyhounds I felt should have been campaigned entirely for the Irish Derby and were being campaigned to be English Derby dogs as well as Irish Derby dogs. And I don't think you can be both. I don't think you can be both, particularly with Toaster being such a peculiar track as well. Um, you're switching about a bit, and I think you focus more if you have a really good greyhound and he's not an open class greyhound and he's not a do a 28-78 or 27-78 run type dog. You say, well, let me take a pop of both of them, hoping if one of them lands, great. But if you've got a dog like this, you start to think a little bit differently. Surely you do. I don't know. I don't have a dog like that. But if you do, you probably, and I'm again, it's kind of a silly thing, but I think it's natural too. If you're a fan of greyhound racing or horse racing or sport, and you really like the ability of something, you're kind of minding it. As I said, in my own head, I'm minding the dog, thinking I'm trying to campaign the dog in my head how I think would be the best, so that we can see something utterly sensational, not just this year but next year, obviously. You know what I'm on record of talking about. You struggling to get, if you have a go at the Derby, it's very hard to come back and have a second go. Now, obviously, this year's winner, well, his Derby campaign finished early. It's very hard to get a second crack at the Derby, and obviously, the laddie da has been in this already. But I would just love now. I would love this to turn into something utterly sensational and come and win the Derby next year and do a lot of things along the way. But I just don't know where does it change your mindset? That's what I'm thinking. When he's this exciting, this good, 27-78 is remarkable. And I have, you slagged me off about it. I think I'm kind of right on the point about the sub 28 seconds. That'll be kind of commonplace. Sub 28, 27-80 won't be commonplace for quite some time.
No.
This is utterly exceptional. This is,
it was third fastest run of all time, only third to Paradise Madison, and of course, I assume she's still a kennel companion. Like, obviously, she's breeding down there. Ballymacarminta, she was she's actually the fastest bitch, I think, over 525 and 550. I'm not sure if the 550 is still standing there, but she was a thoroughly exceptional talent as well. Wherever the laddie dad goes, again, he's going to be a draw at this stage. Like, the cat's very much out of the bag. It's a long time since we were backing him to win the Irish Derby at biggish prices. Here we are now, and I actually looked at his price for the English Derby the week after he'd done the big run, and went, oh, I don't know. I just don't know if he'd be there. Is it too early? Are you putting the mockers on him? So yes, I withdrew it. I took it away. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But yeah,
I really hope he doesn't go to English Derby.
Yeah, I think this year, I think you can potentially do both, but I think this year was a big ask considering how close they were to each other. Obviously, the Irish Derby was earlier than normal, and the English Derby was actually touched later than normal. Like, I'm not sure, is there European Championships on next year? If it is, the English Derby will be on earlier. I'm not sure. It's 2023, Tommy. COVID sort of throwing things out of kilter. But it is potentially going to be a bit earlier, the English Derby, and I don't know whether the Irish Derby will stay as it is. I get the sense that they may keep it sort of around where it is now, because the Laurels and the Ledger have their own point in time, and it doesn't interfere then with the Winter Racing Festival, which is at the start of December rather than the end of December like last year, which suits more people all around, I think. We'll see. The calendar, I'm sure, will be released. I'm going to say the back end of next month, but yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Listen, Droopy's Flight Line was second to him. And I can't be forgetting him. He's doing 28:02. He's doing 28:02, Tommy. And Fallon Fleet was back in third. We've mentioned Droopy's Flight Line. He's still a big player in this Puppy Derby, considering the speed he has.
I'm confident there's a lot more to come out of him too.
Yeah.
I'd be stunned if he isn't breaking 28 seconds on more than one occasion in the next few months. I really will be amazed. I think if he is developing like it looks like, I mean, he did a 206 the other day. Sections, I'm not quite down on exactly what's really good and what's not anymore, because they've changed a bit. But 206 in relative to recent stuff is very good. And if he is developing that, and that's what I'm sure he is, and that looks like it there, it looks like it. Well, then he's going to be doing big times. Like we have to say, there are very, very few dogs in training that are going to come from behind Droopy Flight Line when he leads and does a 206.
Are there 5? I'm not even sure there are, to be honest. You're doing 28:02 in front. You're not getting picked up. I just think it was the exceptions to rule, the laddie that. That's why I say I think the 27-78 was a real 27-78 run. You know, obviously the track is going well. It's continued on from Derby final night, but it's not going any faster than it was when the likes of a Pastan or the really speedy nights we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. Don't you start. You bite your tongue. Okay.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
Just bite your tongue, right? Tribute Flightline second and Fallonfleet back in third. Just the point there. The laddie that is a month younger than Tribute Flightline, you know, which is also remarkable. He's in October. Tribute Flightline is in September. They're both, the first of the month. Fair play. It's amazing how the timing always works so well. But
is there more? Is there more attrition to his style of racing? The laddie that has, having to kind of negotiate ways past Greyhounds. So okay, the other night it was only one, but the previous night it was 3. I think he had to come by. Is there more attrition in trying to win a race that way than popping out and doing it from the front, or does it make any difference whatsoever?
I don't know, to be honest, Tommy. I have to admit, when I first saw the laddie da winning those 2 or 3 races in Shelbourne, where I went, yeah, that's my Derby dog. The night he won in 28:44, and then he came back and did the 29:44 for the 28:44, and then he did 29:44 after a couple of months off. I thought both nights he looked like a dog that'd be real early speed and whatnot. From what I've seen him in the last few weeks, he's looking more and more like a dog that could run over 525 to 600. He's obviously very, very strong. Dare we say it, potentially near perfect greyhound, but you don't want to sort of put those words in your mouth either. He still led 2.5 lengths the other night. You know what I mean? So we have to scale it back a little bit, but there's no question he has an engine like. There's very few, if any, greyhounds have the engine like him.
Imagine how big a certainty he'll be when they up the Derby to 575 or 600.
I knew you couldn't bite your tongue. I just knew you couldn't. Right, we'll move on. We'll skip it. We'll skip ahead to the last heat of the round. And Highview Splash is the one that you would normally hold up for the track is gone bananas. I backed Ballymacmarcy in this race to do 28:20. Right, I backed her to do 28:20. I went looking back on the races from the previous weeks on Saturday morning and looked and went, Ballymacmarcy, get loose tonight, we'll do 28:20. She popped out. Highview Splash ran away from her. Like, I mean, left her standing. Off the second bend, I think I said it in commentary, this is going to be a run. And it was no surprise to me when it popped up 27:97. If you told me before the race he was going to do it, I wouldn't have believed. We did 28:33 on debut, so he's clearly very talented. But it was so obvious in the run that this dog was going very fast. This is another dog that could be anything, Tommy.
Yeah, it definitely could. And I think if you're doing it in the first Shelbourne Park, to me, some tracks are, some tracks aren't. But Shelbourne Park isn't generally a track to me that's fast early. I mean, some tracks can have a bias for 2-3 races that seem to have the best of it, and that Shelbourne Park isn't like that. When he did it on debut, he did it early, and it was he's clearly talented. But he is what I'm saying. I'm not going to labour it here because he's obviously a dog that can break 28 seconds and can do it again. Like if you do 28:33 on debut in Shelbourne Park, you're a phenomenally fast greyhound. You really are. You're like a real talent. You got beaten a couple of times. You don't mind that because you're going straight in against. It was mini open company, but you're going straight in against really good company. You got beaten the first time up. He won second time, come from behind. But if he kind of like his first run was a 208 section on 213 the second time up and got trouble, 214, 211 the other night. I think there's a little bit more in that. Like if you could do 208 on debut, I think you can probably dip below that again. I mean, it's just adjusting. At the moment, it's just adjusting to the level of competition. So the fact that he was able to pop out the other night, I think he's able to do even more than that.
Yeah.
So he's going to be one of the band of greyhounds that breaks 28 seconds this year. There's 4 so far. I think there were 5 in 2020 and 2019.
I would have said about 4 or 5 is the average. Yeah.
Yeah. No, hold on. Whoa! You took a pop at me last week. You said there's 2 a year.
I never said
a little subtle dig. A little subtle dig from.
I never said there was 2 a year. I never said there was 2 a year.
You did. We'll have to go back. We'll have to get Dawn to cut that and go back and show it. Just a little insert in the corner there.
Dawn is enough to be doing. Dawn is enough to be doing to try and back up your ludicrous arguments. Ballymacmarcy actually ran on well in the end to grab second off Jetstream Breeze. Jetstream Breeze, who'd looked a bit of a stare the previous week, coming home well to land the spoils, was second for much of the way. Ballymacmarcy picked it up beaten 6 lengths, but I thought lost nothing in defeat. She's doing 28:39. She had it on her card. Like, she's clearly around a 28:40 bitch. As I said, I thought she'd go a bit faster tonight, but maybe the track was just slowing up a little bit for the 27:97 up front.
Probably was, yeah, sure.
It is wonderful
Only,
to see. It is wonderful to see the Merrimans with the proper dog again.
yeah.
Paddy left us only a couple of years ago, and here it is representing Jerry and Dolores, and he's a real talent, no question about it.
No, I'm not taking that from you. As much as I say, as much as I say that we're going to get a lot more sub 28-second runs than we are, it doesn't matter. You still have to be a dog to do it. You still have to be a proper greyhound to do it. And he's only had 5 runs, is it? The 5 runs? Like,
Yeah,
that's pretty exciting if you're doing on your 5th run. Like, you
yeah.
can say, we also don't know where a greyhound is in its development. You know what I mean? Unless you're in the kennel with the greyhound, how much they've done with the dog, when they started, what all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of things to kind of factor in to know how much more does to come from a greyhound.
Yeah.
He's a good racing size as well, 70 pounds. Good
I was
racing size
was
for a
just that
dog.
was my next line. He's just a nice, handy 70-pound size.
Yeah.
But the way he went to the corner, like, look at his third bend split and his split home. He's doing it everywhere. Like, he's a real, like,
Yeah.
he's doing it everywhere. He's not one of these sort of, like, he took off the third bend and fades home. Like, this fellow's still running very hard at the third
What
bend.
was
He
his
comes
third
home.
bend split?
He does 15:87. So he's doing a
Oh,
12:10 home. That's racing. You know what I mean? Like, that really
yeah.
is running. I don't think this will be a flash in the pan run. Is what I'm
No.
saying. I think this dog is one we'll keep an eye on. As a regular in Shelbourne Park for longer than I care to remember, I grew up with this family. This is a dog
Yeah.
like that. I could go back to his great granddad and say, oh, I remember her. She was a hell of a bitch. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's Highview Abbey back to Highview Horizon. I'm sure if you go back far enough, you get Blue Highview, and like, it's just a family that like the back of your hand. That's great as well. It's hard not to feel ownership with dogs like that involved. Let's get back then to Heat 2, and we'll move through the remainder pretty quickly. Heat 2 was featuring Groucho's Duke, who was one of the talking dogs in the opening round. It's too early to say it. I do feel he's a dog that's much better when he's allowed to dominate. He didn't get to dominate the other night and didn't find an awful lot home, but he's only beaten, a length and what's he beaten? A length and a quarter. Unmatched was always second. But Droopy Zelda, who's been keeping very good company, she has done nothing wrong for the form of Deladi Dan, Balnakill Alf, because they readily saw her off the last 2 nights, and here she is tonight on this occasion, getting loose early and just holding the likes of Unmatched and Groucho's Duke. It was a hot contest.
Something good about that too. When if you're somebody who has a bet, or if you're studying form, or if you're trying to put a hierarchy on it, that she'll uphold the form of the previous weeks. But you know what? She's been highly thought of, and I thought she was one of the top runners in the Dennis Linehan, which we've talked about a lot in the
and rightly so.
Yeah, like, well, the final was Drewby's Flightline, Drewby Zelda was second, Dale Road Duke was third, Sizemore fourth, Orchid Legacy was fifth, and Jatara was sixth. I think that pretty much stands up to itself. So she lightly raced. I think did they say that she's going to the oh, maybe not, she may be young, but like, she has power. She has power normally. You wouldn't think she's a fly out and kind of win kind of job. That's with her. But you know what? You're beating Unmatched as well. Unmatched is a very, 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 very smart sort. Also for Johnny Linehan. So I think it's nice to see the form stand up. And she's better than 28:37. I've no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think she's going the right way. As I've said numerous times about the Vastanas, I don't think they're flash merchants in their first 5 or 6 races. I think they need time. I think you only judge them after 10 races. And I think if we're judging this lady after 10 races, we could be judging a really good one. I think there's no question about that. I like the improvement she's shown, and I thought she really dug in the other night from the front end. She wins at 6-1. Won't be too many nights now. She'll be 6-1 going forward. Heat 3, and this another potential star, Droopy's Mandolin. This lady 28:13 to maintain her unbeaten record. You could see in her early starts she was very talented, but I think she stepped forward again. She's obviously assisted Droopy's Flightline. 6 from 6 now, Tommy. That can't be sniffed at. Whatever about the time, I think the time is will stand up to it in future. I think she'll no doubt do it again. I think she's coming forward. A lot to like about her. Alan and Pat Dobbs have bought some very, very well-bred types over the last couple of years, and they are reaping the rewards, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it is. It is, and like, you'd be encouraged by her stepping up on the sections recently. I know she had one good one there, the second on 208, but like 210 the previous week, 206 the other night. That's getting fairly special in terms of the early pace department, and it's going to help her be to try to extend that record of the 6 out of 6. You know what's likable too is that she didn't lead, didn't pop out or fly out and lead the previous weekends, could still manage to win. So she's obviously got the attitude as well. She got the
Yeah,
determination to win races
I
as
would have
well.
said arguably her run in the first round was her best run to date prior to Saturday night. I think it showed that she was coming forward and maturing. Like you say, it's good to see them not leading, once or twice, just to get that experience going past dogs. And I wouldn't say she's been led too often in trials.
And also, if you watch her run the previous week, she beat Scooby Duke, who actually franked the form as well. Have a look at the determination at the first bend for a 60 pound, 59 pound bitch on the night. That's lots to like about it. I don't know how she came out of the bend without losing about 6 lengths.
Yeah.
That was like, and as well as that, if you qualify in 28:60 or so, you're like, her clicks are just going to continue to improve. She's already found the best part of half a second. There's a bit more to come.
Yeah, listen, how many times over the years you see dogs qualifying in 28, 40 and 50 and they do the similar run the first round and everyone goes, oh, but that's it. They're schooled to death. They can never improve for it.
Yeah, yeah.
How
Yeah.
often have they not improved? I remember Good News trialing in 28, 27 and he went to the sales and there was 150 grand reserve and everyone was like, he's schooled to death and he won't win anything. He's a Derby winner. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. Dogs, as good as they can be and precocious as they can be when they're kids and young, like, they're all open to improvement. You know what I mean? That's
You
the same
cannot.
for every dog.
There's some natural improvement, are in, physically and everything, and mentally in any athlete, that you just can't force it. It has to
Yeah,
come itself.
I'm still improving, Tommy. That's what I take out of these Monday
And look,
morning
you, I
podcasts.
always think athlete.
Athlete,
That's all I always think.
athletes, yeah, sumo. Where's me salt?
There's good
Right.
money in that, Ian. There's good money in that.
Yeah, not sure. No, not sure. Um, the Sing Along Dolly is a recent purchase for Gilbert Anderson, now under the Sing Along banner. She had a 28.57 on her card. She produced a big run the other night. She's obviously settling into her new surroundings. Again, it'd be no surprise to me if she improved again. 28.27. She's well bred. She's young. Nice run in defeat. And Miami King, it just didn't happen for him the other night. He too is probably settling into his new surroundings. He was purchased prior to the competition. Had one race for Gary Dempsey, winning well last week in 28.58, having getting balked at the corner. He does 28.69, forced a check in the bend. There's definitely a 28.30 run in him again. He already has 28.39 on his card. Two nice dogs. I thought Slaney Valley actually ran well in defeat as well, back and forth. Like, he'd come out of A4 company? Yeah, A4 company, and sort of caught me unawares in the opening round, running so well, and did catch the eye the other evening. Now, obviously, he's crashed out of competition, but it's just one to keep an eye on. He's a nice type. Tommy, anything to say about the rest there?
Oh, only that. We're talking about, like, it's a juvenile derby for a reason, and you're talking about like Singing on Dolly. That was only her fourth ever race. So, like, these are what they're doing at the moment isn't cast in stone. They're going to
Yeah.
change, like we talked about Drury Flightline earlier on. They're going to change. Some of them will change their MO. Some of them will just naturally improve at times. So, I mean, they're an exciting bunch when you think about that. Like, Sealand Dolly on her fourth run is beaten 2 lengths by a 28.13 winner.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you. Moving on to Heat 4, this was a red hot contest. Certainly on paper prior to it, but Ballinakillalf, Tommy, despite the tricky draw and despite just taking that little bump early, God, he showed some speed to get around that opening corner. Like, short grip was so impressive in the opening round. Showed fine early speed. Jatara's on his outside. Ballinakillalf just drove into that bend, went on about it. 15.86. I think it's certain at this stage, even though he's only had the 11 starts now, to suggest that, like, 525 is his limit. Like, this isn't a dog you'll be throwing into 550 unless he strengthens up considerably over the winter or whatnot. But I think five. Don't you start and bite your tongue. 525 is his limit. He is a Pastana, as I said. We're now judging him. This is his 10th and 11th races. There's so much to like about this Greyhound. It's almost a shame that the Laurels isn't starting in 3 or 4 weeks' time. Like, he'd be tailor-made for the Laurels, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would. Yeah, and a natural Derby dog for next year. Don, keep that in the book. We'll be bringing that back out next year when Ballykill favourite for the Derby. But no, I love this performance. I tell you why I loved it. I loved it because of the draw. I loved it by the fact the short grip broke and Ballykill had to drive and drive and drive to get to the first bend in front, to get around in front. So, a dog that we think is at the moment a 525 dog, and who I have to keep throwing them in. But a dog we think at the moment, and a young dog, you think he's going to be in trouble if things don't go exactly right early. I just love the performance because Short Grip, right? Short Grip is after having a few months of a break, right? A couple of months break. Now he's been trialed, but ran a cracking race, as you said the previous week, and actually is going to step forward again.
Is
He's going to
she
step
like,
forward.
for all we know, she
Or
could be
she's
coming
sorry.
out of season. You know what I mean? Like,
She,
there's no way of knowing.
Well, she's going to step forward again. I'll tell you why. Because I think sometimes when you come back again, you can do a big run, and it can just leave a little bit of a mark. And she do 28:35, so it's still a savage effort.
But she would
But I
have,
think she's going to improve.
she would have done 28:25, only for
Probably, yeah.
Ballycalaf came across her, and then she forced a check
And
coming to the line. Like, she would have done, she'd have been beaten half a length. That's the way I see it.
well, she did 28:36 the previous week, 28:35 the other night after things not going exactly right. And so that, in theory, even if you say 28:25, which I agree with, it's 11 spots. And what's to say that she won't improve another 11 spots for next week with another run under the belt after having had a break? I mean, she was coming out of A3 company as well. There's this Max of a bitch that's going very, very much in the right direction. So Ballykill Alpha's performance should be upgraded, in my opinion, because of
Yeah,
that. Should be upgraded.
yeah.
Really, I think I really liked it.
Yeah, I think he's a stunningly fast greyhound, no question about it. 1586 after the little bit of bother having to force himself around the opening corner. It's just, I think this dog could do a 1575, which is like, that's right up there with the fastest we've ever seen over the 525 in recent years since they put in that clock. I think 1568 is the best we've ever seen. That was from Droopy's
Oh,
the sadly
oh
no
yes,
longer with
yeah,
us Droopy's Optimum. He
yeah.
absolutely took
Remember
off.
the run. That
Short
was some
grip,
run. Yeah.
yeah, it was unbelievable. Short grip, I agree with you. I think she could be very, very special. I think she's very talented going forward.
Mm.
Stone Park Sid was third. I made a point of asking Hegarty during the week. I said, what does the clock tell you about Stone Park Sid? He said, it tells me that he's an absolute fly machine between 2 and 3. He's unbelievable pace on the back straight, which he showed again the other night. He's going to need to get to the corner quicker, and he's going to need to come home quicker. But there's no question there's huge talent there. Jatara, I thought it was disappointing, Tommy. There's no point in saying otherwise.
Yeah, it just can't be right. Dog
Yeah,
can't be fully, whatever it is, or something. Because I mean, went backwards at a rate of knots from halfway, which is not well from halfway to third men, particularly lost quite a bit
yeah.
of ground. And then even off the last bend, you kind of I wouldn't judge the Greyhound on that whatsoever. But just back in short grip, 69 pound bitch as well.
Yeah,
That's a good size
she's a
for a
good
bitch to
size filly.
develop.
Yeah. We've
Yeah,
seen a few of them the last few years, sort of bigger ones like Ballymac was in around the 71, 72, and it's great. It helps them when they're up against the boys, and she certainly didn't shirk the issue the other evening. One to look forward to, but yeah.
she doesn't have the range with 10 either.
I think as we go through this juvenile derby, we're realizing how exactly how hot it is. It's remarkably hot. On to Heat 5, Deadly Jet, a brother to Jatara, of course, a half brother to Susie Sapphire. He was lightly raced, and things haven't always gone his way. Like a 28:61 minus the 10 at Kilkenny on July 21st would suggest he was very talented. But the other evening was the first time he's really got a chance to get loose since then. He was forced to work. Glengar Elvis is the dog who has improved steadily for each of his starts. And 28:28 the other night from Deadly Jet. It was a good run, big run by the second. Didn't happen for Faith Point Sydney, who'd come in for strong support in the anti-post market. That's worth keeping in mind. He's clearly showing them plenty at home. He's one for the future. But Highview Treat came into third, beaten 8 lengths. But Deadly Jet, Glengar Elvis, they're two nice greyhounds. Whether they'll have the brute early speed needed going forward in the remainder of this competition, but they're clearly very, very talented.
And this tie's been nicely with what somebody has been saying for quite some time and getting a lot of grief about it. But but this is a 28-28 run, winning by a length, and we are talking about it was a decent run. It was a good effort. Like
Well, it was a hell of a good run. It was a hell of a good run. There's no
okay,
question.
no, you're changing your mind now. You're changing your
Don't
mind now. A
start
minute
me.
ago, you were kind of cool on it. Deadly Jet, actually, no, in fairness, Deadly Jet kind of came out the kind of slightly leaning to his right out of traps, right, and that's perfectly fine because I think that's a sign of a dog that's chasing hard and wants to get going quickly. Now he veered in a bit at the bend, and actually, without it being a massive bump with Glengar Elvis, it was enough to just kind of slow his momentum. Then they went at it at a good buckle down the back. It's you know what, when you get a race like 28-28, you want it to be a really good competitive race too, and that's what it was. It really was. And Deadly Jet pulled out a bit extra. He's a nice dog.
He
He's
he
going to
he he
improve.
ran. He
He's
did run like a 550-yard dog. He showed good early speed after an all right start. Took the bump, still charging into the third bend, but he only does 16:13. So, like he's doing 12, 15 home. Like they're 550 yard sort of sectionals,
Yeah, no, no, definitely. And the Glengar Elvis dog kept really honest, really pushed hard. So like there was substance to the form too,
Yeah.
but just a really disappointing 28-28.
Yeah, no comment. I probably did him a disservice. I was just watching it again there. Yeah, he did show good early speed. Glengar Elvis, I think his problem is one length of the corner. I think that's going to be his
Yeah,
problem. But I think he will be a 550 yard dog, and he might stay at 575, 600 down the line. You never know. But yeah, listen, that's a performance that could be upgraded in a week or two's time. On to Heat 6. I get the impression that this is no surprise to the kennel. Scooby Pacemaker talking to John Mitchell before racing. He said, he says, I know you tipped up the Orchid dog, he says, but I think Scooby will win from the draw. And he certainly did win. Like he qualified in 28-31, but it's been a learning experience, no question since then. He's closely related to the Derby champion. Scooby Princess is a half sister to the other Kobe and Born Warrior. She's Mount Taylor Queen. I thought there was an awful lot to like about this, Tommy. He didn't blow them away, but he charged up the fence, got to the front, and once doing so, sort of put it to bed pretty quickly.
yeah, it was a good performance because he kind of, it wasn't a fly out of traps kind of an effort. It wasn't bad either, no, but didn't give away a lot of ground, which is important, I thought. The big 80 pounder and two actually ran very well. Orchid Legacy did show pace down to third bend. It was just at the wrong time, really, in the wrong place, and just ran into a load of trouble. But the winner looks to me the way he strides that he's learning his trade.
Yeah, he's an unfinished article. Like this is a dog that could be like one of your dogs could be doing 28 seconds sooner rather than later.
Yeah, like he's a January 22 as well.
Yeah.
He's very young. I think you can see it in that, which will make it pretty exciting because 205 is a savage sectional, even though he doesn't look like it. He's absolutely hammering out traps. I think he could be one of those we talk about next year as an absolutely exceptional early pacer, and he will stay in.
Yeah,
He'll
16,
stay.
20, like 16, 22, like he's doing 12:07 home. So he's after
Yeah.
taking a bump, let's say, around the opening two bends. So that may cost him a length and whatnot.
Mm.
God, he's 12:07 home. Like it's certainly not going to be a problem to step him up to 550 yards. Whether that's
Oh,
the issue or not, I hear rumors that one or two of that litter may be Australia bound. I hope not. I hope they're too good that you don't send them away. Does that make sense? And if he happened to go on and win a juvenile derby, I'm sure they'd be tempted to stay in Ireland with him. Behind him was El Maestro. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought he showed loads of boot, and he's very much a dog coming forward. I don't think we've seen the best of him. One night he's going to get loose and he's going to do a big, big run.
I just think they're going into the bend. Like there was no room for him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, one is sort of edging off into his line. He just doesn't have the room to get loose, and yeah, he's strong. There's no
Yeah,
question about that. In good time is next,
he's.
and Orchid Legacy goes out. Go ahead.
But I think El Maestro can lead some nights. It hasn't happened yet. I think it's going to happen, and it's getting its development. An 80 pound dog is going to improve as well. Yeah, I'd be stunned if the winner did 205 and El Maestro was down as 206. I'd be stunned if that's right.
Yeah. We'll move on because moments after Scooby Pacemaker scored, his brother, Scooby the Duke, won in, albeit a modest 28-60 compared to the remainder. But there was a lot to like about him, Tommy. He's loads of early boot, this fella. Probably not the stoutest of stayers just yet, but that'll come. Like it's in his pedigree. I wouldn't be ruling him out now, going considerably faster in time when he strengthens up. Just a nice all-round performance. It was obviously probably the weakest of the heats in terms of strength and depth prior to the second round, and the fact that it was one of the slowest times around is probably no surprise. But I thought it was a quite a taking display by a dog who is far from the finished article.
Oh, very much exactly what I was going to say, and maybe it's the litter, and maybe it's the way they're being trained, which is to develop the right way to train, of course, to develop them over time. Just to gain a bit like his brother. Looked as if he was learning the trade. Now, different type of galloping, different style of galloping, and kind of did what I talked about earlier about maybe Deadly Jet, was it? just stepped out a bit on traps and then was cutting in across the bend and just hasn't learned the art of racing yet, which you'd expect. Only 4 runs, so yeah, the time wasn't the best. But I'm a bit in your camp now. I think I'm expecting quite a bit of improvement. I mean, it's an obvious thing to say when they're January 22 pups and they only had 4 runs and they're running to this level already. But yeah, I'm quite impressed.
You compare
Also
his
encouraged by the fact that
you compare his 12:49 home compared to 12:07s, 12:10s, 12:15s we've spoken about. Like there's a lot to be found there.
oh, no, there's plenty to be found. I think it's just in the art of racing. It's just not there yet for him. But it's just you taking right lines is underestimated. Racing the right line is the significance of it is very important in terms of what clocks you do, and even winning races, because where you're losing ground and just silly things giving it away, stepping right, stepping left, doing things like that. You lose balance as well. They do as well if they're veering into a bend too quickly and too sharply, going taking a step to the left, as some of them do. A couple of them did on this occasion. So I think he's look at it's too much too soon. I'm sure this juvenile derby, and if you're picking out one for the moment of the little brothers, you definitely go pacemaker at the moment. They're very similar in terms of size wise, 76, 77 pound dogs, but I think he's a nice prospect.
Yeah, it didn't
Later
happen
down
for
the line,
didn't happen for the other brother, the other Donny. But let's just say they're not putting me off the other Donny either. I think they feel he can run as well. Now he happened to be
yeah.
taking on the laddie dad Druby's flight line, so he was a bit of a lamb to the slaughter, and he got batted done.
And I think the betting, if I remember rightly, was 1-2, 6-4, and about 14's bar in that race.
1-2, 6-4, 14-1, 14-1, and 50. And it was a 50-1 chance to fill the trio frame. And that's what you look for when you're doing your little trio. Stick in the outsider. You never know. You never know your luck. It's a hell of a good competition, Tommy. It's what we want to see at this time of year. One or two of them will be able to run in the National Puppy Stake at the end of the year. The future looks bright.
Ian, I can name 10 of them that'll break 28 seconds in the next 6 months, and I'm not even trying to wind you up. I'm genuine. They're a serious bunch, and even the ones that are getting beaten, none of these are like, I don't know. I can't. I'm sure it's been similar over the years. Like some of these are extremely inexperienced going into a juvenile derby, like three,
Yeah.
4 runs. Like they
Yeah.
really are, and they're
It's
faring well.
it seems to be a growing trend. It seems to be happening more and more year in, year out. You know what I mean? And
They're
I don't know
effectively
why.
unraced.
Yeah, I think the whole Kirby thing is sort of thrown it that obviously you can't choose when your bitch comes in season, but I think more are being bred if they're likely to be born in sort of January, February time, and as a result, you get a few more inexperienced types coming through in the juvenile derby, with a view to maybe getting a bit of experience for the end of the year. Where are we next? No, good competition, Tommy. If I had to force you to pick a winner, like, feel no shame in going for the laddie da, but he's not going to have things easy. You stick any of the top 12 into a final, 6 of the top 12 into a final, you've got an exceptional juvenile derby.
See, this is like, even though he did 27.78, which is utterly ridiculous. I did say after the Ballinkill Alpha performance, which was visually more impressive, right? Visually more impressive, but I did say after that, God, he won't always catch Ballinkill Alpha, because Ballinkill Alpha will break a little bit better, be a little bit further away, will do a little bit of faster time. When you can do 27.78, you can probably catch most greyhounds.
Yeah, certainly can. Just going to mention a couple on the undercard. High Trend won the opening race in 28:25. Just given the way he ran and the fact that he's been sprinting, I'm sure Graham Holland would be tempted to enter him in the Laurels, which is, of course, been drawn today. By the time you've seen this, you've probably seen the Laurels drawn. You could tell me whether he's in or out of the competition. Aren't We All was a very taking winner of the second race in 28:26 for David Murray. I thought she showed tremendous early speed. She's one to keep an eye on. And then there was 2 semi-finals of the dual distance at the end of the night. Kapuka Warrior, having run a big race over 550 yards in Derby final night, did 28:23 off the front. I thought JT Craze caught the eye in second. Just completely crowded out early. I think it's only a matter of time before he produces the big run that he produced at Shelbourne a few weeks back. And Druby's Ilse won the last race in 28:33. Further highlighting what Robert Gleeson has at his disposal of late. He's got a really nice kennel of dogs, all very well bred, and lots to look forward to there. Tommy, the Kasko Derby finished at Curraheen Park on Saturday night. I don't think it came as a surprise to anybody that Jack Tavern Bolt completed his march through the competition 4-6, 28-26 the track probably not going as well as it had been in previous weeks because he did an even faster sectional. This is the one thing he wasn't doing in Dundalk. He wasn't trapping. He was trapping in Cork. 3:18 the other night. Like, that is Laurel's form.
That's yeah. There have been better, but not many. Like if you're 3 or 4 lengths clear around Curraheen Park at the first bend. Now he's not running the first bend nitpicking. It's not exceptional. He is leaving a tiny bit of a gap inside him. But the only thing is, who are you going to find that's going to be good enough to match him to exploit that gap? That's the thing. But like, look, I and everybody else who was in Curraheen Park has picked that Greyhound as the winner of this competition for weeks. The only surprise is that he's 4-6 in the final. He was that priced because he's been the standout performer, and the frightening thing is that he's only on the up. He's an October pup. He's on the up. His 5 runs like 3:31. What were they? 3:31, 3:31, 3:25, 3:26, 3:18. That is talk about going the right direction if you're going to the Laurels.
Phenomenal. I have to mention one or two of the runs on the undercard. A certain Swords Rex, I would say Frank the time, like he does 28:17. It's no disgrace, only been just 9 spots behind Swords Rex. We've seen him run very well at Curraheen before, obviously a finalist in the Laurels last year. He finished third in the Laurels last year without a real clear passage in the final. Big run.
He had a shocking draw, sure. He was in 6th that night, yeah.
He'll obviously be in the Laurels. He'd have to be seen as leading contender. He's had a nice little break now and ready to go again.
Yeah, he has. I look at. I think back to the English Derby, and I just think it was his for the taking, and just think everything just went wrong in that final for him. He's an exceptionally fast dog. I didn't fancy him for the Irish Derby because of that English Derby. Again, what I talked about earlier on. Don't know, especially this year when they're so tight, but I don't know if you can really be campaigning to win 2 really long, really competitive, competitions like at that level. I think that it was desperately unfortunate what happened to him in the Derby, actually, as it happens. But it might be a blessing in disguise because I personally wouldn't have fancied him to win the Derby anyway. But he is one of the best greyhounds we've seen for quite some time, and one of the most consistent. And yes, there were a couple of issues along the way last year with him, but they've campaigned him so well. They've worked so well to get him back and get him back racing as often as he has. And that little break will freshen him up. Still don't know that Curraheen Park is really his track, even though he ran an exceptional race in defeat in what was one of the deepest Laurels finals for many years last year. So he ran a phenomenal race in defeat behind Good Cody and Ballymacrispa. So he's a player. But of course, my inclination would be to look for a younger, fresher dog.
Yeah. And like it's going to be, it's the Laurels in its very nature is, you missed a kick one night and you're in trouble. And and that's why it's often a more open competition than most. But we've seen some stunning Laurels finals in recent years, in particular the Laurels. It's just thrown up some amazing finals over the last 5 or 6 years since the friends and supporters of Cork Greyhound Racing came on board. Like, they really have been richly rewarded for their efforts. And this year, of course, joint sponsors with Bar1 Racing. Great competition to look forward to. I was going to mention this a bit later, but we might as well mention it while we're here. The draw will be made today. Top class entry as we're speaking. We've seen some of the runners that are already there. Dogs have been running so well around Shelbourne Park, and you have likes of Carrick Aldo thrown in, the Bar1 Racing Irish Sprint Cup winner, Halo. Obviously a few of the Ballymac dogs are there. Ballymac Merino Juvenile Classic winner Michael O'Donovan has another Holiday. Easy Razzle, we'll get to her in a few minutes. And Swords Rex is in there, and Graham Holland yet to produce, or let's put in most of his runners yet. So it's going to be a hot Laurels, no question about it, Tommy. It's a special time of the year down that way.
Yeah, Ballyhimick and Rex, the likes you've got. Yeah, it is, and you're right. There have been really good Laurels finals. I know sometimes the depth of the final wasn't brilliant, but the final itself was absolutely exceptional in terms of as an individual race. But I think last year, the last couple of years have been a step forward, and last year in particular, just the depth in the final was. If you go read the list of 6 dogs that were in the final last year, hoping for something similar this year, and I think we'll have it. But I do think, as I've banged on about for a while, I think the standard of Greyhound in the country at the moment is exceptional. So I can't see anything only a top Laurel this year. I really can't.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. Might book my usual room, Tommy, if that's okay.
Yeah,
we'll go on. We'll move on. Better book Barry Call. We'll go on to the action from Waterford, because there were some
on Barry Call. Sorry, on Barry Call. I just happened to during the week, and I on social media, I happened to come across that Derby karaoke, and I'm still not right. I'm just
Karaoke.
things. Look, yeah, it might take me a while to recover.
I got a feeling. We're moving on because we will be mentioning that in a minute. Before we go to Limerick, I want to mention the action from Kilcohan Park in Waterford. Two finals, of course, up for decision. The Casey's Camping and Caravan Open on Race Stake produced some really nice types last year. And while the star of the competition was sort of taken out after the opening round, Epic Chick did a 28-18 run. She's clearly a bright prospect. I don't know whether she was sold or whether she picked up a little niggle or whatnot, but she didn't take part in the remainder of the competition, and it sort of threw it a bit open. But I think I think they've a nice winner. It was won the other night by a dog called Carefree Charm. He's very strong, or she's very strong. She's only a March 22 whelp. She was fifth to the opening corner and showed all sorts of pace and strength to win in 28.63. It wasn't a massive run in terms of the clock, but it was a massive run in terms of what you see with your eye. She's clearly, very, very fast, and one that I'll be keeping an eye on in the future. Well done to Bernadette Connolly, a really nice type of daughter, Droopy Sydney. I think he'll go far as a sire. And moving on, the final of the Dave Collins Munster Memorial Oaks, and this was worth €7,500 to the winner, and it looked a cracking contest on paper. I see Glengar Martha was sent off the 7-4 favourite ahead of Role Model. Then you had Montana Fantasy. Easy Razzle was fourth in, Tommy. Forget about the percentages, 7-2. We'll talk about the percentages another time. She's always been very, very fast. Her issue has always been sort of trapping, but she turned a close second the other night and led off the opening corner. And thereafter, there's nothing going to handle her. 28-11, massive run by a hugely fast bitch.
Yeah, like the funny thing about her is she's 3:33 in Curraheen Park, and she's 2:11 and 2:10 a couple of times in Shelbourne Park, and 2:13s. They're not bad, but they're just not enough to lead. But like she went from 3:28, 3:20, 3:38, 3:26 to 3:18 in the final. Now it wasn't a blistering show of early pace, but it was more than enough to lead the Greyhounds on her inside. And it was also enough when Role Model missed a kick slightly, ever so slightly. It was just enough to keep Role Model at bay. And that was key. We talked about this before. Role Model had to kind of get out in front and poach a lead, especially on one like Easy Razzle, who stays so well. So this was kind of over early. What was over the first bend. Role Model tried the best, but Johnny Linehan's bitch, Easy Razzle, she's a very strong stayer. I think it was a fair run now.
I think she's a very fast lady. I've sort of been waiting for her to take off in Shelbourne. It just didn't happen. Every night she was showing loads of boot, but again, just not getting herself into position where she could really strike. Johnny Linehan.
First time since April she led a race early.
Yeah, and that's remarkable given her ability. Johnny Linehan is remarkable with these bitches, isn't he? He's some record.
Brilliant. And you can go back to Twirl, who was
she was special,
top class. She unlucky to be knocked out of the Derby semi-final, was it? Was it semi-final, quarter-final, semi-final? She was a brilliant bitch.
Yeah. She's an August 21 whelp. Like she's actually 26th of August. Like in other circumstances, she could well have been contesting the Juvenile Derby. She's been born a week later. As it happens, she'll be at Cork at Curraheen in the Laurels. She'll need to find her trapping boots, but she knows her way around the place, Tommy, and she certainly has the pace. She has a 28.09 trial around Curraheen Park. It's just a case of finding herself in a position at the corner to produce those sorts of runs.
That's exactly what it is. And I'd be interested to see what 3:18 the other night in Watford converts to in Curraheen Park. I mean, provided what I'm saying is, can she do the equivalent in Curraheen Park and put herself in a position to show how good she is? So she's type of bitch that could go a long way. A little bit of luck, of course, would be needed in running a lot of nights, but the ability, if you do 28.09 around there, you're entitled to probably get to the latter stages at the least.
I have to say, I'm not really up on the splits in Waterford, but I always thought you need to be going close enough to 3 seconds. Like Role Model did 3:04 in the semi-finals. So there's still something to be found with that 3:18, no doubt, going into Curraheen Park. We have to mention Limerick because there was a huge run from 365 in the opening round of the Irish Cambridgeshire, sponsored by Roma Casino. 365, she ran an absolute booler in the Derby final. Like she's on top of them to the escape. She takes off the other night. She does 41.08 for Scott Phelan and the Pints of High No Syndicate. Track record. It's, I know it's only the opening round, but it's lovely to have a track record. Like I never forget the nights that get connected to the track record at Shelbourne Park. A day that'll stay with me forever. And here we are, 365 over the same distance in 41.08. Get connected did 42.01. I think it was, and like that was unheard of at the time. Obviously, it was on a grass track, but 365, 41.08 for 750 yards. Just a remarkable run. She wins by 7 lengths from an English rider, which is great to hear. Beach Babe representing Tom Levers, actually now down to Pat Buckley for this competition. So technically not an English rider, but a bitch that has been campaigned in England. But 365, 41.08. If she continues that sort of form, she'd be very, very hard to beat.
I think if you saw the video on social media after the day after the Derby, I think that was out of Scott Akira put up, and she was in superb form, 365, and you can see her. She was, exactly as a greyhound should be, and it's just brilliant on so many levels to see her come out and do this. It just goes to show how much she loves racing, how determined she is. I mean, you know, if she comes out of the Derby final, right, having run a purler altogether, if she comes out of that and then she goes down there to the Cambridgeshire and runs a terrible race, you kind of go, yeah, well, that was it. Like they got the best out of her. She's
That
coming
that
down to
that
the track
you're
record.
gone. That's understandable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course you would. Of course you would. But she comes out and does a track record. What a joy! I mean, down the line to breed from the likes of her with the determination. Of course, you'd be looking to breed early pace into her, but the determination and just the constitution she has to come out of that, having run so hard and so well for 6 weeks, and then to come out and do a track record in over 750. Brilliant,
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
The one in second, like, has numerous runs over 8 and 10 bends in the UK. Like, she's all about stamina. 365 from the fifth bend home
Yeah.
ran away from her. Like, ran away from her.
Mm.
She's clearly absolutely in the form of her life, just so happy. And the 550 yards at Shelbourne Park, it obviously isn't taking a breath out of her. I just say she's just one of those that has a remarkable engine, and she'd be very hard to keep keep out of the frame in this competition. Obviously, she just snuck around the opening corner. That's going to be the one issue. Short run to the bench. She's going to need to be trapping very well. Kinturk
Just
Road won
wonder,
this. Go ahead.
just wonder, did she enjoy that? Did she like that? And sometimes we talked about it too, where um and even I even have a Greyhound, Greyhound at this, a much lower level. Say that we're hoping that if we step up to 750, you might actually be able to pop out and get around that bend.
Mm,
Sometimes it happens that short run to the bend can be very different. Just
yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if this is her MO over 750.
Yeah, she is taking on the Cork. Well, she will be taking on the Cork Cullen winner if she
Yeah,
keeps going through. Kinturk Road wins the next heat in 41-46, and we know she is pretty slick at boxes. Hookham is second, and the other heats were won by McNeil, 41-86 Powerhouse. Not going to be worrying her too early. You'd imagine Newport Pier qualified Sunshine Dream, and then the last of the heats went to the Bold Freddy, who can go to a corner. I was surprised. Now, it's not that I didn't think you wouldn't get home. Like, if you put him in the right contest, he'd probably get home. 41-76 would tell you, like, that he's probably not staying all that strongly, but he stayed well enough to win pretty comfortably by 3 lengths from Ballyadaskar and Lysadora, she probably wants about 1,500 yards. She's a sister to Ballymac Taylor and Ballymac Katie, who we may just get to briefly in a few minutes. She wants all sorts of distances, but it's a good Cambridgeshire. It's going to take a bit of winning, but I think it's safe to say that, 365 and Kinturk Road are probably the two to take out of the other night.
and the funny thing is with Kinturk Road, I've just never been impressed. I can't figure it out. She's
Yeah.
a really good bitch. She won a Curraheen Cullen, and I fancied her in the final, and I think I might have even had a few winner at 5-4 that night. And I maybe maybe she doesn't do it. Even though she gets out in the bunny, just doesn't seem to get away from them. It's like she's giving them a chance in behind all the time that they're at her tail. It's like it's never. I'm just gone. Good luck. I'm gone. That
Yeah.
just doesn't seem to happen with her. So
I'd suggest, like, the night she beat, like, if you look to her 750-yard record, like, obviously she won handily her, a few nights, but like her first run over 750, 41-84 at Curraheen, wins by a length and a half. The second night she got loose, 41-73. She wins 5.5 lengths. She wins a half length from Law Hill King, but she had to work to get there that night. So
yeah.
you'd forget. She wins the first. Was it the first round of Cork Cullen? She wins by 6 lengths from Ballybock Champ. Comfortable, straightforward. Now it starts to heat up. Right, she beats Ballymac Katie a length and a half. Don't think that form has worked out too bad. Haka Carlo didn't get a chance to show it in the final, but he's a hell of a fast dog. Another member of that brilliant litter, the Ballymac Merkel litter. She wins, but she does 41.02, so she can do no more than that to get
Yeah.
away from Haka Carlo.
Oh, but
And then she wins the final by 5 lengths from Hanover Phantom. But I agree with you. She wins the other night from Hookham 2.5 lengths to 41-46. Hookham is 28 seconds on this card, and he's a runner-up in the produce stakes. So, like, she's taking on the very best of the best.
no, you're right. But even the Hanover Phantom night when she won by 5 lengths in the final, never as comfortable as 5 lengths. You know that
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
watch the race,
Okay.
that's her. Like I think, like she's obviously got tons of ability. She's only ever been beaten once over 6 bends. Like until they find a way to consistently beat her, it's hard to crab her. But
Yeah,
I just think if you back her, she's never a comfortable watch. That's the
yeah,
that's
yeah.
she. I don't think she's ever wildly impressive. But as long as she keeps getting the jobs done, who cares?
Yeah, she's a big player in this competition. Ballymac Armint, obviously, our dam, we mentioned her earlier on. The second fastest run ever for 525 yards at Shelbourne Park. That could be under threat in the coming weeks. I think Tommy's expecting A4 dogs to be doing it. We
Yeah.
That's the Cambridgeshire. I just gonna talk briefly about what happened in England on the weekend. Obviously, big Irish representation at Perry Bar. Bocco's Crystal won in the opening round of the Birmingham Cup. That's no surprise to anybody. She looked fresh and well in herself. She didn't lead early, but she came charging through to win. I think they're expecting better from her. She's a big player in that Birmingham Cup, but I think the real action we have to talk about is the St. Leger. Three Irish winners. They were Ballymac coming from 7 miles off the pace, not looking at home around the place. Obviously, in her first look, she finds a gap off the fifth bend, gets up the inside, forced to check again between the last two bends. Then the seam opens up. She charges up the home straight to win by a length of a quarter. Garfinney Blaze led on the opening corner to win at 42.98. That was the second fastest heat winner. And of course, Jack Tamarbella got loose early. She also impressed. Three Irish winners in the St. Leger. It's good to see them going over, Tommy. We've only won the St. Leger once in the past, but I dare say we've only challenged for it a few times, certainly in recent years. Red Zerardford was the sole Irish winner. Strong chances could be another Irish winner this year.
But if there's good money, why not travel?
Mm.
Why not travel? And I tell you what, talked about it so many times and mentioned it. It's all and there are different facets to different people. But like this, the quality of the competition over here is so good. If you have to travel, you have to travel to. A lot of these greyhounds deserve a big payday. And if you have to travel to get us one, so be it. And it's actually great it's great, even though the British trainers might know you don't want taking away our prize money, whatever. Do you know what? It's great for the sport. It's great for them, really, if they think about it. It's getting more interest from over here as well.
I found that the more success we've had over the last 2 to 3 years, I do think they're putting their hand in their pockets a bit more over there. I think they
Yeah.
want to just make sure they have the talent to beat the Irish. Jack Tavern-Bell and Ballymac have been drawn against each other in the opening semi-final. It's only two to qualify, and the fact that Ballymac Taylor is in there as well, the little sister to Ballymac, like whatever about Ballymac coming from off the back, Ballymac Taylor, you want to see the run she produced. Like she had absolutely no right to win from where she was. Jack Tavern-Bella, you'd imagine will lead up the likes of those two, but she'll have lively Lauren and to beat early if she's going to get loose on the bunny. It's a hell of a contest. Garfinney Blaze is racing in, bear with me, he's in trap one in the second semi-final. I don't think the draw could have worked out much better for him if he traps like he did the other evening. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be hard enough to stop. And then the other heat, well, there's no Irish runners in that one, but yeah, talented trackers in it all the same. Troopy's Clue, incidentally, was the fastest of the heat winners. He did a 42.76, getting loose on the bunny. You want to always get loose on the bunny, and I'm not guaranteeing that he'll ever do 42.76 again. So I think it's all to play for in that Leger and Birmingham Cup. Best of luck to the Irish. Tommy, anything else to add?
No, just keep it rolling the way it is because we've got a lot of good stuff on, and the Laurels is starting this week, so we're only out of the Derby and we're straight into the Laurels, so it's going to keep us busy for another while.
Yeah, we'll have lots to discuss again next Monday evening. We'll be talking about the Bar One Racing and in conjunction with the friends and supporters of Cork Greyhound Racing Irish Laurels. We'll have the Time Greyhound Nutrition Juvenile Derby third round to speak of, as well as anything else that's happening, including those runners across in the UK. But that's it from this.
And
Go ahead, Tommy.
we also promised we'll have somebody more entertaining to talk next week with us.
I
Well,
was
something anyway.
I was happy enough. I was happy enough, now, to be honest. I think the two of us make a good team, Tom. That's it, though, on this Monday evening. My thanks once again to the Exile Dub. He's gone home now to bite his tongue. But that's it from us. We'll see you next time. Good evening, good luck. God bless.